And I actually was watching something about a young child in Long Island, New York, who I think she was 13, or she is 13. I shouldn't say what, she's 13 years old. And she got the coronavirus back this past March. And she had mild symptoms and got over it. 5 months later, she has now developed, they're calling it a blood vessel syndrome. Okay. They're also referring to it as a condition called POTS, P-O-T-S, okay, which is a partial uh, hypo underactive orthostatic pressure, meaning is that when you stand up, right, you want to pass out. Okay. So you can't get oxygen to your blood effectively. It's a pretty bad scenario, right? It's basically, I mean, your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system is just basically dysregulated. So it is a blood vessel disease, but it's also a central nervous system or a brain problem. Okay, which is triggered post-COVID, triggered, right? Then the connections I've been trying to make with everybody, right, is that why would it happen so many months later? Why do we see they call them these long haulers? So as I said many times over, the degree of the severity of the symptoms when you're infected with the coronavirus does not equate to the immunological response post-COVID. I hope I'm making that clear. Meaning, okay, these post-COVID long haulers, whether it be something like POTS, blood vessel diseases, chronic fatigue, depression, anxiety, chronic coughs, skin conditions, doesn't matter, are all immune driven. So, so the virus was not the actual, how do I say it, direct cause of that. What the virus does is it's when you're infected with the virus is that your immune system is reacting to the virus, right? Hopefully in an appropriate way, but it's when the immune system being turned on by the virus and that immune system is not functioning properly, it's in a sense it's dysregulated, we get an, let's just call it an amplified immune reaction. Then the immune system is not calming down appropriately. So it's the amplification of that immune system reaction, which means the amplification of inflammation in the body that is then the precipitous of these conditions. And so when we get into the discussion of autoimmunity, why we're seeing an explosion of autoimmunity is because so many people, okay, very common that we have what it calls the immune system produces antibodies, and those antibodies may tag self tissues, whether it's your thyroid, whether it's your blood vessels, whether it's your liver, whether it's your the mitochondria of your cells, whether it's parts of your brain. I mean, every tissue in your body is made up of proteins. It means every tissue in your body potentially can develop an autoimmunity. Now we're going to get more into this, right? So if you haven't known by now, right, is this coming Thursday, was it August 26th at 7 p.m., right? We're going to be holding our monthly free webinar, right? So it's about an hour-long webinar about the emerging autoimmune crisis that we're seeing here, right? And we'll take a little bit of a deeper dive into understanding more about antibodies and the different type of antibodies and the things that trigger them, and the common things that we look for to understand not how and why the immune system is imbalanced, and talk about some strategies that kind of get you back on track a little bit. So join us on Thursday at 7 p.m. August 26th. We'll take a deeper dive into this. Where do you want to go from here?
Well, you wanted to talk about what is an antibody.
Yeah, okay, we're going to take what is an antibody. Again, we'll talk a little bit more in depth with that, but um, I keep saying again because I feel like I'm saying this over and over again, but the immune system is our defense system. It's there to protect us against things that are foreign, such as a coronavirus. So it should be identifying the coronavirus. But in order to identify the coronavirus, it's just like the coronavirus just comes in and immediately your immune system says, that's wrong. No, it needs to be told it. So you have certain types of immune cells that are circulating right? And their job is to identify something that looks foreign and kind of surround it, right? And then they call for help. They call for recruitment, right? And these are your helper cells. And certain types of helper cells, their job is to produce antibodies, right? And those antibodies, when they're produced, are being produced specifically for the protein of that invading bug. Let's call it a virus. Right? Remember, the immune system only reacts to proteins. So with the coronavirus, or any virus for that matter, what it's reacting to, right, is the spike protein, which is a protein. Okay, so if it comes in, your initial immune system, called your innate immune system, should see that and go after it and try to surround it. It can try to kill it a little bit, but it really, its job is just to kind of surround it, and it needs to call for help.
So an antibody is like a tag.
So the helper cells, the specific helper cells that make antibodies, yeah, it's like a tag or a bullseye. Okay, it tags, when they're made, it tags the virus or tags the protein, the virus, and it kind of neutralizes that. But that tag, that bullseye, that antibody, then signals other immune cells. They see that antibody, and that tells these other immune cells that that is foreign, and these are attacking immune cells, killer cells, natural killer cells, cytotoxic cells. They do what they sound like, right? They come in where that antibody is, and they begin to destroy that virus or that bacteria. Okay, that's what antibodies do. Okay. Um, See, I'm kind of, see other things too, like that same system that also does other things. Like when you think about something like allergies, pollen as an example, right? When we have an immune system response to pollen, right? Your immune system, these initial immune cells can't surround pollen. It's just too big, right? So you can only surround small things like viruses and bacteria, right? You can't surround the pollen, and you can't surround something like a parasite. They're too big, right? And that's why other parts of the immune system produce mucus, because the mucus then, and the immune cells, the mucus kind of push it out of the body. That's what you're discharging, right? So there's all kinds of backup mechanisms, right? But the point is that these antibodies that are produced by the immune system are tagging something that's foreign. So the question would be, why would the immune system make these antibodies and then tag your own tissue, like your thyroid gland? That's the whole thing. That's what autoimmunity is. And again, and I keep saying again, but in the medical model, what they say to you is that we don't know why. There is no known cause for this. And some way typically, and let's just use thyroid as an example. Typically, if you go and you get diagnosed with an underactive thyroid, your blood test shows that your TSH is elevated, for example, and they say your thyroid is too slow. They typically don't run the antibodies, right? They don't run it, and the reason why they don't run it is because it does not change the strategy in the medical model. The medical model doesn't care really if you have the antibodies or not. They don't care if it's autoimmune or not because it doesn't change the strategy. It's useless information to them. All they're going to do is give you replacement hormones. The point is you might need the replacement hormones, but if you're not really addressing the autoimmune component, it's going to get worse. And that is one of the dire consequences and the mismanagement of this, especially like with thyroid, because what I always try to explain is that if you have an underactive thyroid, if you have hypothyroidism, and you identify the positive antibodies there, the cause of the underactive thyroid is the autoimmunity. The cause of the underactive thyroid is that your immune system is, like the lack of a better word, is attacking the thyroid. It's attacking self tissue. So it's like when we in my world, when we see that, right? I always say to people that it no longer becomes a thyroid game. It now becomes an immune game in all things immunological, right? And that's why, what are the many factors that can turn on and turn off this immune system that could turn on more aggressively attack against your thyroid? What we want to do is we want to turn it off, and we want to put it into remission. So at the end of the day, really, it's about autoimmune management. It's an immune management game, and you don't need to fear this. You just need to understand it, run the right tests, and get the right strategies so that you can put this into remission so it doesn't wreck your life, right? And we'll go on. That's the whole idea, right? So again, we're going to go deeper into this on Thursday at 7 p.m., August 26th. I want you to join me for that. What other questions do we have?
I think on this topic, I think, unless you want to go into toxicity, unless you want to go
No, I don't want to
specific.
go too much into that. I just want to go back and maybe just, wanted to get off the whole vaccine thing she did last week. I wanted to put that to rest. But I mean, it is something I still continue to hear. And this is not about the vaccine, but it's just the one point that I want to make. Using this young girl, 13 years old, who is now experiencing this blood vessel syndrome, what they also call POTS disease, 5 months post the coronavirus infection, where her symptoms were very mild, right? So again, it's this is like, I keep hearing people talk about the concerns about the vaccine, right? The concerns about what the side effects of the vaccine are going to be. But again, my point is, what are the side effects of being infected? So again, we come down to the risk versus reward. I know we all have to make our own decisions about this, but the point is we need to be, correctly informed so that we are making educated decisions